Hello! First of all, sorry if you can hear any A, construction noise or B, background noise. There's a lot of people in the house and there's still construction things going on everywhere, so I apologise for any background noise you guys hear. One day I promise I will get better at editing so I can edit out background noise. I promise. Also, update on my latest video from the train, from when we went to London. They are going to give me my money back, which was actually really painless, so that's good news. So thank you to the West Midlands trains for getting that sorted. It was nice and quick and easy, so thank you so much for that. And yeah, no, that's it. They're the only two things. So, on to today's video. I don't know if you guys know this, but the last couple of videos I have sort of wung it. Apparently that's right, wung it, I asked somebody. No, winged it. Making it up as I go along the last couple of videos because I've been sort of a little bit busy and I haven't had a great amount of time to plan them. However, for today's video, I have done planning and I've even got a little video plan here, so this is hopefully going to be much better than any other video you guys have got before because I planned this one. Miss Watson, if you're watching this, I planned a video. I actually planned something. Now, as my title would suggest, today's video is about living with dyslexia. Some of you guys might not know this about me, but I have dyslexia. And I thought that I would do a video about it and about how I have dealt with it through my entire life, how it's affected my life, and how I deal with it now as I wouldn't say a functioning adult, but as an adult in a workplace, and how I deal with it in my everyday life now. We're going to get a little bit deep today, and I'm going to tell you guys some stories about things that happened to me, and yeah. Also, this is the first time you guys are being introduced to the Red Notebook, but you will probably be introduced to the Red Notebook far more often because it has just got everything I absolutely need in here. All of my, if I can find any of, finances and drawings, anything I need is in this Red Notebook. Fanfics. So, I'm surprised you guys haven't seen this sooner. And video plans, apparently, are in this notebook. So, first of all, I'd start with, what is dyslexia? So I actually had to do some research on what dyslexia was for somebody who has been diagnosed with it since, I'm going to say I was about 7. I had to go and do research on it. I had to go and really look up what it was and how it affected people, because I knew I had it and I knew how it affects me, but I couldn't, people have asked me before and I've never really been able to explain it. So I'm going to explain it to you so you guys can explain it to other people. So the dictionary I looked up says, dyslexia is a general term for disorders that involve a disability in learning to read, interpret words, letters and other symbols, but does not affect general intelligence. Basically what that means is my brain is a lot slower to process things like words and not symbols. I'm okay with symbols. Everybody's dyslexia is a little bit different. So I know 2 people that have very similar strands of dyslexia than I do, but I know a lot of people that have lots of different strands of dyslexia, and so I struggle with words quite a lot. For example, if we get The Hobbit open on any page of writing here for The Hobbit, and to people that don't have dyslexia, this is just a page of writing. For me, all of this is just kind of shapes. It's not actually words, it's just sort of shapes. And I have to concentrate on each word before I am able to read it. I'm going to read you a passage of the book. A spoiler, I suppose, if you've not read The Hobbit or seen the movie. I'm just going to read you a little bit and you guys can see how I would read normally. Bilbo and the dwarves had now plenty to think about. They asked no more questions. They still had a long time to walk before them. Up slope and down dale they pondered. It grew very hot. Sometimes they rested under the trees, and then Bilbo felt so hungry that he would not have eaten acorns if they had been ripe enough yet to have fallen to the ground. For anybody who is a speaker or anything like that, that must have been really painful for you guys to hear. But that's how I read, and that pieces where I was pausing it isn't necessarily pauses in the book. It was, I've had to stop, read the rest of the line before I can read it out loud, because I've had to register what each word says individually before I can piece whole sentences together. That's how my strand of dyslexia affects me. I used to go to school with a girl who, her strand of dyslexia affected her reading sheet music. Now, I am not musical. I do not play a musical instrument, so I don't know if it affected me. But yeah, but she could. Her math wasn't very good, but she could read passages of text, and it wouldn't faze her as much. So, like I said, everybody's got a slightly different strand of dyslexia. But however, people that with dyslexia tend to be good at other things. So I've got a couple of things written down here. Not all of them apply to me. So, for instance, a lot of people with dyslexia have strong visual learning. I am very good at visual learning. I'm very good at visual things. For instance, I can have a day off work, come back the next day and instantly know that the tables have moved. I instantly know if somebody's written something on the board because it wasn't there 5 minutes ago or it wasn't there yesterday. I notice things very, very quickly. Do I notice things? Problem solving is another one I've got written down here. I love to solve problems. I didn't realise that was part of my dyslexia. I thought it was just me. But I love problem solving. I love to try and figure out problems on TV shows before the characters on TV shows do. I like to, if we've got problems or something at work, I'm like, okay, before we have a problem, we have to figure out how to fix this problem. I really enjoy that. I think that's why I like video games so much. And another thing I've got written down here is dyslexic people are quite creative. I wouldn't class myself as quite creative, so clearly that doesn't apply to everybody. Also, I was told when I was younger that I'm quite clumsy, and my dyslexia is to do with me being clumsy, but I haven't found that officially written down anywhere, so maybe that's just people trying to protect the fact that I am clumsy. All this information I'm getting, by the way, I got off a couple of websites, which I will link down below for you guys so you can find out more if you want to. Now, just real quick, just so you can see how, where's it gone? My dyslexia affects me. I don't know if you guys can see that, but that word is supposed to say for. It's F-R-O-R. Why are there 2 R's? Why did I put 2 R's in it? I don't know. I know how you spell the word for, but because I was busy or I was writing it quickly, it spelled completely wrong. Do you know what's really funny? My sister today, she told me what, I tweeted something. Follow me on Twitter, you guys, @Martha. And I tweeted it wrong. I was like, hashtag their loss. I wrote their lost instead of their loss. And instead of deleting the tweet and started again, I just kind of left it. Because I was like, well, you know, it's me. Nobody expects me to spell stuff right on Twitter anyway. It's sort of expected I'm going to make mistakes. My sister then told me that what she thinks is really funny when I do it is when I spell a word right in a tweet at the beginning of the tweet and then spell the word wrong again later in the same tweet. How does that happen? I don't know, but there you go. It happens sometimes. It probably happens far more often than anybody would care to tell me, but that's okay. So, story time. This is where it gets not heavy, but this is where we get to the main strength of our video, I guess. So, like I said, I was diagnosed, I guess is the right term to use, with dyslexia when I was about 7. And I remember having to go and do this test. I had to put puzzles together, and I had to read a passage, and I had to build, like, towers with blocks or something like that. And I got pulled out of a lesson to do that. I did it with my primary school. But you guys have to remember I started primary school in about 1997. So I don't know if any of that is different now. I don't know if schools offer it completely or they don't at all. I don't know. If I find out that information, I will also link it down below for you. So after I had been tested, I remember walking down outside with my then best friend Jasmine. Jasmine, you probably don't remember having this conversation with me, but you asked me where I had gone, and I said I had to go and do a test. And you said to me, why you, why not me? And when you're 7, it's a good question. The two of us could not fathom why I had to go and do something different. I never remember being behind or feeling like I was behind. I just don't remember it. But I obviously was, because otherwise they wouldn't have done the test. But I was told I was dyslexic. You are dyslexic. Okay, great. That was it. That was all I know. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I had to go and do research on something I've known I've had for most of my life, because I didn't know what it was, and I was not really told or informed or sat down and made to understand. And my primary school, I'm not going to tell you what primary school I went to, but my primary school was not very good at inclusion. And I had to sit outside of lessons with the same 4 boys, which when you're 7 sucks, because you don't want to be with boys when you're 7. And I want to be with my friends in the classroom, and do separate work. We had to do what I would class as easier work. I could do the work that they were giving me because it was easy, and I was not allowed to go and do the same work that they were doing in the classroom because that work was too hard, or I couldn't do it quick enough. And because I couldn't do the work quick enough, I had to go and do it somewhere else, which I don't think is very fair. How do you learn and grow and develop as a person, as a child especially, if you are being taken away from the things that you learn and grow and develop from? I'm a huge believer in we grow and we learn from each other, and I couldn't do that as a kid because I was taken away from the environment in which you learn in. I was made to do easier work and easier spellings, and I did not understand why I had to be different. Why couldn't I stay inside? And I used to argue and fight all the time because I didn't understand it. I didn't understand why this dyslexia was stopping me from doing from doing the same work as everybody else. And I wanted to try. I really did. For a long time, I used to fight to stay in the classrooms, but they wouldn't let me, and so I just gave up after a while. I didn't want to go to school because I was different. I wasn't allowed to be in the same rooms as everybody else. I didn't want to go and sit outside and do my work differently. I didn't want to do different work. And that made me really hate school. This thing that these teachers weren't helping me, they were singling me out. I felt alone. I felt very alone for a lot of my first school. Obviously I wasn't alone, I had 4 boys, but I felt like I was being lumped in with other people that couldn't do it. By the way, if any of you guys feel the same way, or if you guys know who I'm talking, if you 4 boys know, leave me a comment. Let me know if you guys felt the same way about that, if you're watching this. Because I always felt that way. I felt very alone, I felt very singled out, and I couldn't explain it to people who were my friends who got to stay in the classroom because I didn't know myself. I did not understand, and nobody made it clear to me that this is what was happening. So I felt alone. And then in year 4, do you do SATs in year 4? Do you do them in year 3? Do you do them in year 3 and year 6? We were doing some kind of test in year 4. And we were doing comprehension, where you have to read a passage and then you have to answer questions on these passages. Now, my first school, was very aware that I was not great at reading and I read at a slower pace. Primary school teachers, if you're watching this and you have dyslexic kids and you don't know what to do with them because they don't want to do the work, they're not lazy, they're just not challenged. Challenge us. Don't make us do work that is below our grade because we can't do the work that that the whole class has moved on to do. Give us something that's challenging. Let us do something that's a little bit out of our comfort zone. Let us try. Don't make us sit there and feel alone. I felt very alone for a long time. Like I said, the 2 other people that have very similar strands to dyslexia than me, I met one of them in secondary school and I met one of them about a year ago. So, I didn't feel alone for that entire time, but I felt alone in my dyslexia. In my disability, I felt alone. I didn't feel like there was anybody I could connect to over that. Anyway, so this comprehension. What comprehension is you have to read a passage, answer questions on this passage. And I couldn't do that. I got halfway through reading it and the words just were all shapes, and then I ran out of time. So I don't know if, like I said, I went to school in very, very early 2000, went to first school very early 2000, so I don't know if it's different now. But they used to give you a certain amount of time to read the booklet, and then they said, okay, now you have to answer the questions on this booklet. And I'd only get through maybe the first paragraph and a half before I even made it to answering the questions. And so I would have no idea what was going on. And because I could not write nothing, I used to write things like, I didn't understand, or it was a nice story, I enjoyed it. And Mrs. Goff, who was my year 4 teacher, she, after we'd done this comprehension, she was obviously marking them, and she was, I felt, was frustrated, and she was talking to the class one day and said, you cannot answer, obviously nobody in the class did especially well, and she was saying you couldn't do this and you couldn't do that, and she said you cannot answer questions about the story with, I liked the story. And everybody laughed. Now, she didn't say Molly wrote this on her test, but I knew it was about me, and I felt very picked on because of that. It's not my fault that I didn't understand, and she knew that I was a slow reader, and I wasn't given any extra time to read it. I wasn't allowed to have somebody read it to me. I wasn't given any of that. Actually, on that topic of having stuff that was read to me, like I said, guys, remember I went to school, my first school was very early 2000, but while I was doing some research, I found something called a Scan-E pen, and what I could tell is it's a bit like a highlighter, and you highlight the words. So let's make sure there's not a spoiler on this page. So what I could understand from it is you get the two ends of the pen, and it has headphones, so you plug the headphones into the pen and you put your headphones on and you run it across the words and it reads the words out to you. That's incredible. What an incredible piece of technology that is, that somebody's invented that to help us. I'm going to look into getting one, so I'll do a video, if I can get one, I'll do a video on how it works. But I honestly, I found this yesterday afternoon and I was just blown away. I've told every single person I've met since then about this marvellous thing. Even people I've met for the first time that have no idea what I'm going on about. I've told about this marvellous pen that is life-changing. So yeah, I'm going to look into that. But yeah, and she made me feel very alone. She made me feel very singled out. And like I said, I hated school. I didn't want to go. I was behind in school because I didn't want to go to school, because my secondary school made me feel like I was stupid. It made me feel like I wasn't worth anybody's effort or time. Until I got to year 6. Now in year 6, I had a teacher called Mrs. Tanner. And she was a lovely lady. And she could obviously see that I was either not challenged or I was frustrated with the way that I was being treated by the school, because this wonderful teacher did everything she could to help me. She did almost everything in her power to try and get me to like school and get me to work hard, because she knew I could do it. She could see. She did a couple of things for me. She looked into getting, I don't know what the official name of them are, but you'll see dyslexic people with them. Glasses with different coloured lenses in, and then they read pieces of paper. She also looked into getting me, it's about this big. Do you guys like my Costa bookmark? It's about this long, and it's made of acetate, so it's clear, like the water bottle is. And what you used to do was, you used to put it on the page, and then the page would change colour. So there was like a blue, a pink, and a orange one, I think. And you used to put it on the page, and the page used to change colour. And the idea was it would stop the words moving around the page. Something else that is linked to dyslexia very much is this idea that the words move around, words jump around the page. Because I don't see that. Like I said to you, for me, all of the words are just kind of shapes than they are words. Because I never had that, because my dyslexia didn't affect me in that way, it was very hard for people to help me. And I understand that it was hard, but I feel like a lot of people felt they couldn't help me because I was being awkward because I didn't have this. That I wasn't being awkward. I genuinely, when people say, do the letters move around the page? No, they don't. I do know several dyslexic people that the letters do move around the page for them, and they can't live without their little acetate sheets. It used to drive me up the wall. I couldn't do it. It just kind of made the page blue and pretty. It was pointless for me, but at the time was the only real thing anybody had to help me. Now, Mrs. Tanner was the first person who looked into me having a scribe. We're going to go back to touching on a scribe later, but she was the first person that really looked into that for me. But this wonderful woman, she would take time out of her day, out of her lunchtime, out of her tea time, to go through my papers or go through writings with me and correct them with me sitting there, so she knew what I was talking about, and she knew, and she wouldn't let me change any answers. I wasn't allowed to change anything. It was all very strict. It was just, I'm going to go through them, and any word that does not make sense or even remotely close to the word, we are going to cross out, and I'm going to write the correct word there for you, because she knew that I could do it had I been given a chance, and I could. And I think that's why when I got my year 6 SATs results back, a lot of people were almost shocked at how well I did in my SATs results, because I actually had somebody who believed in me, and it was wonderful. And it was just such a shame that it was so late in the game to when I found somebody who actually wanted to believe in me. It was too late by that point. I mean, it was wonderful, it really was, but I still went up into secondary school loathing school. I didn't want to be there. I don't want to learn, because of the way my first school treated me. So, teachers, primary school teachers, do not single out your kids. Do not let them sit in a group of 5 people that can do less work, and then let the same 7 people sit together because they're all good at what they do. Mix them up. We will not learn if you leave the same 5 people on a table that all can't do it, all get stuck on the same thing, and none of us do the work. Sit me next to somebody that can do the work, and they can help me, and I can help them in something else. I was always very good at science. I love science, and I was always very good at it at school. And I can't understand why you wouldn't put me next to somebody who was not great at science but good at maths and English, so we could share. We could learn. I mean, I know it's hard to do that with primary school children, because primary school children don't really think that way. They think, I want to sit next to my friend. But it would be so much better than just making me sit outside and do dumbed down versions of the work. Just, please, teachers, listen to your kids when they tell you they're not challenged. Listen to your kids when they tell you they're struggling. Listen to your kids. Watch your kids. Learn from them. They probably aren't lazy, and they definitely aren't stupid. They just need somebody to believe in them. They just need encouragement. Okay? Okay. Hello, Molly from editing here. Basically, I'm going to stop the video here, and I'm going to split it in 2 halves, because I have a lot more things I need to say and a lot more information to tell you guys, and this video is going to end up being an hour long otherwise. So thank you so much for watching this first half of the video, and please stay tuned for the next half. Kwaherini!